My next guest, James Owen Roberts, is the CEO of his very own Amputee Empowerment Coaching Organization. James is also the creator of the AMP Method, host of the Mindset Athlete Podcast, and a TedX speaker. It is our pleasure to welcome this two-time Paralympic athlete, Mr. James Owen Roberts. Hey, James, how are you today?
Very well, Rick, and thank you for finally having me on the show.
Finally, we are here, and it's a Friday. It's not the weekend, but it feels good because we are on together now, and I know I've been chasing you a bit for a while, and here we are. And I appreciate you being here today. It's good to see you. Can you tell the audience in what part of the world you are right now?
I'm residing in North Wales, so the United Kingdom for the people that are not aware of North Wales.
And what's your weather situation right now? We're actually very cold here in Chicagoland in the U.S. What's it like for you right now?
What's relatively cold, Rick?
Well, we've been having some mild temps, but right now I think we might get up to about 27, 28 degrees.
Yeah, that's cold.
Yeah.
That's very, very good. Let's see. Let's try to work out in Fahrenheit. Probably about say low 60s,
Okay.
maybe venturing up to this. It's warming up gradually.
That's not too bad actually. We're believe it or not, we're actually very fortunate right now because usually we're taping this episode in February, and usually at this time of year, we're usually either in a polar vortex or we're experiencing wind chills that are below zero. So this is somewhat of a blessing that we're having some of these milder temps and we're sort of climbing into those 40s and 50s now. And I'm hoping that trend continues. But as Chicagoans will tell you, just when we think that we're out of the woods, that's usually when we get hit with a really big snowstorm, and then we're 2 feet under snow and nobody can drive, and it just becomes a disaster for everyone. So I feel very, very lucky. I've done a lot of research on you. I certainly follow you online, and you are very, very generous with yourself, with the content that you speak about in terms of your own story and what you've been through as a lifetime person, as an amputee, someone with a limb difference. For me, being a young amputee of about 6 years, I look at people like yourself and I'm fascinated because you've been in this experience a very, very long time. Your perspective is very different from my own. I had a life with all my limbs for, really in truth, 40 something years before all these changes happened to me. So much of my path was making those adjustments to create what was a new normal for myself. But your normal was pretty much from birth. And I think the place that I want to go with you first, I do want to get into all the exciting things that you're doing with your coaching and the AMP method and all the different things that you offer your community of supporters and clients and people like that. But I want to give our listeners a little bit more about you in terms of the backdrop of your life and where you came from. I think there's a lot of that is very relevant. And these are the things that I'm most often asked about when people talk about amputees like yourself.
hmm
So I think where I want to go is what challenges that you recall as a child, what challenges, whether those were physical, mental, otherwise, what challenges were those when you were coming up as a young kid?
Your earliest recollection that I have, and obviously you've read the one that my parents have had. But the earliest recollection that I've got to memory, and it's only because it's been recanted to me numerous times, is being in the playground. I probably would have been about early elementary school, so about I don't know, maybe 6, 5, 6, 7 years old. Of I would literally sat on the side watching my friends and my peers play on the monkey bars. And obviously, we fast forward 30 odd years later, you and I, anybody that's obviously in the 30s would agree that's pretty mundane. It's a pretty easy given task. But back then, if you're not obviously included with your friends, you feel quite alienated. I didn't, but um, the story goes that I don't know why my mum was in the playground. I didn't see her, and she literally recalls it as you could see the cogs turning in my head. How do I overcome this challenge and adapt it to myself? And literally, that way of thinking has been paramount to how I behave and react to situations 30 years later as well. So it's okay. I can't do it like everybody else because obviously doesn't matter if your arm or have an arm prosthetic, they're a nuisance. They get in the way sometimes. So to be able to just play on a jungle gym for me was going to be an obstacle, and I overcame it within probably 2 or 3 days. Of okay, I can see how everybody else is doing it. I won't be able to do it that way. I'm going to be able to have to do it my way, and then that serves me up until later on in elementary school, like fifth or sixth grade, running up the slide the wrong way. Obviously, the health and safety people would be going nuts. But I wanted to overcome that to
Mhm.
literally that. Okay, how am I going to be able to do it because I can't propel myself up with being above the knee like everybody else. And when I did that, I was amazed. I was like, oh wow, I've managed to achieve this. I didn't think I'd be able to do it. And if we go back to probably the earliest recollection of any challenges, probably for my mother in particular, but to be told that your son, in this occasional daughter, based on what's being presented medically, never gonna walk is probably not very great news. That's I won't say my mother hid it from me, but she didn't want to detract from what the ability that I was given. And I think we discussed it when I was maybe a teenager. What were some of the setbacks that I could have faced? So literally, if I had have been told that, I'd have believed it. So words are very powerful in that way, and I think it definitely helps me in my line of work now because it's like, well, okay, what you believe, okay, where does that come from? Because that's not me thinking I won't be able to walk. That's the medical profession going on their their professional opinion. Oh, in all the scenarios that we've seen down the years, this is what should occur. My family chose to kind of go, well, we're not going to tell him, and then obviously the sky is the limit. So mm, technically, I probably shouldn't be able to walk because I'm missing so many bones in that leg, and obviously it's only half of it.
Yeah.
So I've never probably listened to things like that because it's like if that's literally somebody saying no.
Well, I
Okay,
think the
watch me.
first word that comes to mind for me when you talk about, those cogs turning, you're watching other kids. We all want to participate when we're young, and we see those things happening. The first word that comes to my mind is adaptation. So when we see something that conventionally might not be the right fit in terms of a puzzle piece in our life, then we start to think of, how do I make this work for me? Talking about going up the slide, the opposite direction, participating in a certain way that you can still feel as if you're part of something.
Hmm.
Um, I think as a kid for myself, I always sort of went into this space, which is probably not the best, but it served me pretty well, was thinking, I just want to be normal. That word normal was always kind of pinging in my head. Normal. I want to be normal. I want this to feel normal. I want to be able to say I'm like the other kids. I'm normal. And obviously, you looking down at your person and saying, I'm not normal. I'm not the same as everyone. However, through adaptation and through what perceive from you as sort of an iron will to do things.
But what I want to add to what you're saying, Rick, is I did think like that for a long time in
Yeah.
terms of why can't I be normal? Why can't I be like everybody what's has all functioning limbs? And it wasn't until about 16, maybe 17 that I kind of went, "Psh, nah, I don't want to think like that because it's detracting from me." And I think once I become more comfortable with the disability and what it shows to the terminology, none of those words bother me at all now.
Mhm.
It's like it's a label. It doesn't mean anything. But I think speaking to other people within the amputee community or disabled people, some people are very, very staunch. Oh, I don't like the word handicap. I don't like the word disabled. I don't like the word blah 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 blah. And you're thinking, well, at the end of the day, it's a definition in a dictionary. It's a word. It doesn't define who you are. And I'm not gonna go and use some of the, the really, really very bad language for what to say, but I'm not gonna go down that route. But as in, I could literally go down that way if I wanted to be able to make a point. But because I've taken a harsh look and a stance look at myself as, okay, I'm not normal, but all of those, well, they're all adults now. They view me in a certain light of, gosh, job. I'm not going to put words into their mouths or thoughts into their heads, but they probably would love to be in my position
Mhm.
20 years later to kind of go, oh, James has traveled the globe. He's done something that he loved.
Yeah.
And what most sporting kids wouldn't literally chop their arm off to be able to have to be put in that position. I had the luxury of being able to fulfill what was not only an ambition, but it was a dream I wanted to do as, gosh, I'm probably like a 5-year-old. I got the opportunity to be, because of the disability, to be able to go from strength to strength to strength. To, okay, I didn't view disability sport very well 25 or nearly 25 years ago to now. If it wasn't for it, I wouldn't be speaking to you. I wouldn't be able to. It literally has opened doors and has made my life. I wouldn't know what to make of it maybe 20 years ago. So if I could talk to myself 20 years ago to say, this is the journey you're going to go on. Obviously, don't make the same mistakes again. But this journey is going to be amazing and take everything in and soak it up when you get the opportunity. Obviously, I can't live in an altered reality, but that's where I would go. And I utilize that now in my coaching role to kind of go to probe into some of these things of, okay, why do you feel the way you do? Why do you think the way you do? And let's go a level deeper to not just accept the behavior and habits that you exhibit now as your own, as in
Mhm.
it's going to come from some sort of environmental factor in the past. It could be your parents' belief. It could be the way that you were taught at school. It could be religion. It could be whatever. And it's going to shape people's way of thinking. And obviously, I've done that myself through coaching to be having that awareness and foresight to kind of go, okay, where does some of my beliefs come from? Why do I think a certain way? To the point that I'm having some of these conversations with my own family, and I had a conversation, I think it was last week with my mother because she's like, do I manipulate the way that you think? This is my mother speaking. I was like, no, we think it's the exact same way, but how I got there is probably completely differently. Yes, there's going to be some bias that I'm going to inherently have been like a sponge in my earlier formative years. Yes, I'm not going to dispute that because between the ages of 0 and 7 years old, I found this fascinating when I found it out. The child doesn't know between what's real and what's a dream. So literally, they don't know what's reality and what is it when they're sleeping, which is probably a good thing because that's why they've got such imagination to kind of go, I want to do this in later life,
Yeah.
and it's only through other people's literally saying, oh no, you can't do that. Why don't you focus on something else? And then I think eventually you kind of succumb to it because it's like, oh, they're right. Whereas if you were to challenge that all the way along, kind of go, well, no, that's what I want to do. What it is you're doing is that's your thought process, that you don't think you can do that. So let that not stop me to do what I want to do along the way. And I think once we reach probably junior high, middle school, and beyond, this is obviously being altered because people are kind of going, well, you can't do that. You're not the one in, say, the professional athlete in the US. Things like 0.1% that's going to make it. But if you believe that statistic, oh, I'm never going to make it. But for the few that do, they don't believe it. It's like, yeah, I'm going to defy those odds because ultimately the people that are most scared of you succeeding are probably those people telling you not to do it in the first place because they'll be kind of go, oh,
Oh, I want to
James
believe
couldn't
that
do it.
you were a pretty active kid, correct? Pretty
Yeah,
active.
yeah, yeah.
And what were the sports that you gravitated towards, even at a very young age?
Gosh, now I got to think about this, Rick. Now, that I gravitated towards. Most people won't know this. I actually did karate to start off with to instill some sort of discipline into myself. I thought I was a naughty kid and misbehaved in the dojo. That wasn't the case. My mom said it was the original. I called him an instructor, like sensei. Sensei, that's the word I want to use. He was very adaptive. He viewed, obviously, I'm not going to treat James any differently from any other kids that are in there, and we're going to try and adapt him to so I could do forward rolls and things like that. So you shouldn't. I had no apps. I had no filter in terms of, well, I'm going to throw my. I could have hurt myself with having a
Yeah.
prosthetic on, but because I thought I was being inherently undisciplined and unruly, that wasn't the case. It's actually the next center that came in, he was unwilling to do that.
Hmm.
And when I've only learned that in later life because my mom went, no, it's the other person wasn't willing to accommodate you and them thinking outside the box. So that's probably why I misbehaved and then went from there. So I never got up my dance. I was only a white belt, but I think my first competitive sport would have been 10-pin bowling. So obviously it's a massive sport in the US and
Okay.
you go to college and well, I don't say the rest of over here it's more recreational and it's not done for competition. So I did that for 10, 11, 12, 13. I might have done it until like 14 years old, but I started swimming at 11 and they obviously interfered with each other because I couldn't
In
do.
those early years when you were sort of finding yourself as an athlete,
Mhm. Mhm.
because when I talk to people like yourself, uh, sort of career, let's say career type athletic people, being
Mhm.
active, being in competitive sport has been a thing for most of their life that they've spent, you know, decades developing their bodies, developing their mind, developing all their tools to be able to operate on those levels. When you were first finding yourself in that space, who was someone that you feel was a big motivator or inspiration for you?
I'd say my mother.
Your mother.
'Cause she backed me to high heaven
Yeah.
and literally, and we've had a conversation recently, about my business as well. She said, That's your decision. I'm gonna back you." At 30 nearly 37 years, I never thought I'd hear that again at 37,
Yeah.
but I must be doing something right for her to have the same regard as she had as when I was a child.
Mm.
As if you're gonna give I'm gonna say 100% because I don't like 100%. 100 when people say 110% because it's impossible. if you give 100% to this venture, I'm going to back you. So that was probably my earliest person that supported. And then I've had loads of coaches down the years, from Billy Pye, that was my coach when I made it into British swimming and I moved over to the UK to go to university, to Andrew Williams in rowing, same when I moved over. But I think the main player is no longer with us, because
Mm,
he unfortunately died before the new year. Would have been Anthony Hughes. That
okay.
literally, for me, considering he was my performance director within Disability Sport Wales, is more like a family member to me. So
Mm,
to hear the news of his passing late last year, I was like, gosh, the legacy that he's left for, be it myself and the ones that maybe still hanging on to their careers, is we've got to keep that going. We've got to keep that legacy going. That he was like at the forefront of disability sport in this country. That he took no, literally took no for an why can't they be viewed on equal measure like the Olympians? And I think obviously it's finally been able to be done with the games in London 2012, that people were getting the recognition that they're no longer viewed as disabled athletes, they're viewed as athletes. And maybe from the general populace, people can relate more to those individuals because there's more adversity in common than, say, the Olympian, because the Olympian is like, well, the motto of the Olympian is higher, faster, stronger.
mhm,
Most people are not going to get to that level in reality, because the herd's going to get thinner and thinner and thinner as higher you go up. Whereas the disabled community, say like yourself, you could get injured tomorrow, you might then join that movement. And I think for him, the impression that he made on my career, from the very naive James at 16 years old, coming to something that is I knew nothing about. I obviously knew I was disabled, but disability sport didn't get the coverage that I think that it deserves now, because people within the media didn't view it as equal. Oh, well, just give them 2 hours. And this was the Paralympics in, I believe, Sydney, and then Athens, I think, got a little bit more, but that's only 20 years ago.
and when did the
So my view,
Paralympics become part of your life? When was that officially happening?
it would have been, when did I join? So it would have been about 2003,
Okay,
2004. It was only because one of my coaches, because I'd be up until that point, I'd been in able body sport my entire life. So I'd never seen anybody like me. Um, I obviously knew I wasn't unique and special in that way, because there's got to be somebody that's similar some way, but I'd never encountered them. So I'd gone to practice as normal, and one of my coaches said, "What are your thoughts on disability sport?" So that conversation alone changed my life.
yeah.
Do I view it as malice? Do I view it as they had the best intention for me? I don't know. I'd have to sit down with them now and kind of go, "What was your?" They won't obviously tell me if it was malice, because nobody's going to admit to kind of going, "Well, you don't belong here because you're different."
Yeah, let's put you over
And
here.
obviously, I excelled in that one, because there's a lot of people that got parents that are very pushy. That the parent wanted more than I love to beat those kids, because it was fun. Because it's literally putting the proverbial middle finger up to the parent. It's like, hey, you shouldn't be losing to James, but okay, if I'm better than him, it doesn't matter. I've got one leg, so so it makes it worse. So those were um, it's a motivation that's I inherently I had externally, because I was more pleased with beating people than beating my personal best. And I would say to people, that's not going to last, because obviously those embers are going to die very quickly, because you once you get comfortable, it's like, wow, I'm beating people, but I'm not actually pushing myself on. And I think how I'm going to define this, because I've looked at it for myself on reflection as, well, that's an epitome of failure, because if I'm unwilling to push my boundaries, It's not that I'm scared of failure. Also scared of succeeding, which is very irrational. So if I don't try, I don't know either venture. So I thought I'd share that with. I've never shared this with anybody, but as in, I thought I'd share that on the show because I had to kind of go, well, why am I exhibiting in adulthood? Why am I scared of a success? I'd rather. So my mindset back then, I think about 15, 16 was, well, if I don't try, I can't lose. Yeah, but if I don't try, I also can't succeed. So this no man's land that some people find themselves in is, I'm going to say, even harsher. If everybody around you is moving forward, you're moving backwards
Mm.
relative to them. So there's no procrastination. There's no area of me sitting still relative to everybody else. You're going backwards. So for me to think that, oh, if I don't try, I can't succeed, I can't fail, is it annoys me because it's like, well, you almost utilize it to make it was an excuse. Because if I don't try, oh, it doesn't matter. Oh, because I can't have failure. Yeah, that's true.
I won't be
It's one
measured.
side of the argument, but if you don't see what you're fully capable of, you can't really succeed because then if I was to have potentially not focus myself on beating other people and just beating myself, I'm going to do that anyway. Because if I can improve myself, I'm going to get faster. I'm going to get stronger.
Do you feel like the
So,
Paralympics represented that in a way? Do you feel like that was a catalyst for you? And what did
well,
you
it's climbing up that ladder, so to speak, as okay, I'm now at the basement of disability sport. What's the next step? So it was almost that excitement of, okay, the ceiling is unlimited because ultimately I'm seeing people progress on an equal footing because I was going to be at a disadvantage in able-bodied sport eventually. There's going to be people that are going to be better than me just because they've got the luxury of that extra leg.
Mhm.
And that's that's not me being funny, but as in that's a fact.
Yep.
Whereas I think once I moved into something that is people are on equal footing, no pun intended with that. And people are done on their ability and they're being put into categorized into the similar disabilities. Okay, where's this going to take me? So I did have a quick rise up. I was literally from being out in the wilderness in 2003. I was in a national program within the next 12 months. Okay, it was our development team. But if you'd have said to me you'd have made that progress so quickly, I wanted to happen a little bit quicker than that. I
Mhm.
did I should have made the team 3 months earlier than that, but I probably would have been amazed at what would the progression have made if I would have because my mom wanted me to go swimming when I was in first grade, not sixth grade, because there was two twins in no, not first grade, second grade, sorry. Two twins in the year above that happened to be black, and they both were swimmers. She wanted me to tag along with them. I wish I had, because literally, if I'd have started at, say, what would that be, 6 years old as opposed to 11, where would I have been at 16?
Yeah.
Okay, we'll never know that. But in terms of, it was a little bit of, nobody probably would guess that I was introverted or shy. I was very shy back then. I was like, no, I don't want to do that. I don't want to put myself in that position. To
Mhm.
now, I was like, well, yeah. I did a talk at my one of my alumna universities yesterday to their business school to talk about what is real entrepreneurship because obviously they're only learning theory. If you rewinded maybe back even we'll say 10 years ago, if that opportunity would be presented, no chance. No, I don't want to do
Mm.
that. Don't want to do that. 'Cause I still had judgment of myself yesterday because like, oh, what are people gonna think? What should I wear? Da, da, da. Some of that self-doubt. It's like, well, it doesn't matter. I'm the most knowledgeable person in the room when it comes to talking about me. If they don't take on board what I have to say, that's the because they're undergraduates. The lecturer did give them an excuse that they've been there since 9 o'clock in the morning. Yeah, yeah,
Mm.
but that's the real world, 9 to 5. So
When
they're
you
gonna have to get over that at
I'm
some point.
curious about something, talking
Yeah,
about,
shoot.
these, let's call them speed bumps or little roadblocks that tend to get in our way. And I think
Yep.
about the amputee community, which is vast. When you
Mhm.
become an amputee, you end up really getting immersed in this very wide spectrum of feelings and opinions. And because we all come in different shapes and sizes and backgrounds and all
Mhm.
these different things, it would appear to me that everyone is coming at this from a different angle with a different set of resources. And what would you say is the thing that frustrates you? And be honest. There's, I
Well,
really
from a coaching perspective, well, towards the community, they put an extra hurdle
just
in.
amputees in general. Like if you
I
said
think they put an extra
this
hurdle.
is the thing that frustrates me about amputees.
I think they put an extra hurdle that doesn't need to be there. So say that a problem occurs to do with the health and fitness, and I can solve that. There's like an extra roadblock put in the way. I think, oh, why are you doing that? Why are you inherently like almost derailing progress? If we can solve this issue and it makes life better, I don't know if it's because the individual has not had the success that, and because somebody put something similar to on my profile yesterday about not everybody's been as fortunate as me. I'm gonna hold my hand up and say that's very much true. I'm gonna
And I
agree
would
with
I
that
would
statement.
say, fortunate in what regard? So what specifically are they citing as you have been fortunate?
Probably the opportunities that I was given,
So the
but that
opportunities that just came your way in your natural orbit, or that somebody picked you from the heavens and said, "James, we're going to allow you to do all these great things." Because I struggle even with that equation. That calculus doesn't work for me because you are someone that had many disadvantages,
Mhm.
but through adaptation, through desire, through the right kind of encouragement, you were primed. So when the opportunities presented, as they do many of us, okay, lots of people get job opportunities, relationship opportunities, all kinds of different opportunities get put in front of us. The question becomes, which ones do we seize? Which ones do we latch on to? Because very often, eh, someone that says, "Well, you were very fortunate," or "You had more opportunities than me," essentially they sometimes are blind to the opportunities that were
Well,
given
there's
to them.
also what's the saying? This is from I watched a Gary V podcast with oh, what's his first name? Oh gosh, it's gonna annoy me now. It is. I can think of his last name, but I can't think of his first name. It's Higgins, and he's off Shark Tank.
Okay.
They both agreed, and I'm gonna paraphrase because then people can go watch the episode because it's amazing. Um, that opportunity costs. So I agree with you, Rick, of saying that there's the yes, I had the fortune to have all this success come by me, but there's a sacrifice I had to obviously offset. I didn't have much of a social life
Mhm.
growing up. I wasn't the typical teenager. Drinking, smoking was not on the radar because I chose to in order to be successful in what I want to do is like, well, those are going to derail performance. So let's steer clear of those things. So it's a skill that I've had to adopt. Not adapt. It's a skill I've had to get good at as I've got older. Be able to speak with people, being able to create relationships because I didn't have the luxury as a teenager to, well, girls were a distraction. Then it's like, yeah, it's not. It doesn't matter. This is what I want to do is here.
Mhm.
If you're not going to be supportive of that goal, you can go by the wayside. And British Swimming gave us it's a triumvirate. You've got your sport, you've got your education, and you've got your social life. One of them's got to give.
Mm,
For me, uh, with being in obviously mainstream Europe, and I went to American high school as part of the Department of Defense. I couldn't leave school till I was 18 years old. Okay, I'd love to have got rid of it at 16 if I could have, like the rest of the guys on the team because they could have left school at 16 if they wanted to.
yeah.
I couldn't do that, so that's gotta stay there until I get my high school diploma. Sport is what I wanted to be successful in. That's a no-brainer. That's number one, number one on that triumvirate. So my social life had to go. So this is a skill that I've had to get better at in my 20s and my 30s because I didn't get I was very introverted, shy, reserved. So if I didn't know you, I've got to gain trust with you. So they're gonna take months. It's gonna take years to be able to be really comfortable with you. And with running a business, I can't do that. I've got to know you now. I've got to know every ins and outs of how you tick to get the best out of you, and however long I've got you as a client or a customer, or if you're even not a customer, that you've got to
That's a
gain
great
trust with me
segue.
straight away.
Yeah, that's a great segue because I do want to talk about the AMP method and what is, the core principles of what you're doing for amputees, advocating, training, coaching, and let's do somewhat of a role play, and
Yep.
you can kind of come at me like, I'm this I'm just me. I'm a relatively new amputee, and let's discuss the things that I want to do.
Hmm.
And I know that your approach is not only from the physical end, in terms of fitness, but you also explore nutrition as well. So, it's a multi-pronged approach, and I think people would be very well served to engage you if they are in a place where they feel that their progress has either slowed or stopped, or they're just stuck in the mud. And I'm not being judged. Don't send me emails. I'm not judging people, but there's a lot of people out there that are stuck. I mean, that's obvious to me. And there are resources like James that can help you reach your goals as an amputee. So, I'm coming to you for the first time and I'm saying, James, I feel like I'm relatively fit. I can do a lot of the things that I want to do. I
Hmm.
can work a 12, 14-hour day without issue. I can be in a prosthesis all day and on the weekends, and usually let's say 2 3 nights a week, I even have enough energy to hit the gym and do the things that I want. But here's the thing that I'm struggling with right now. I had been sick for a period of time before my amputation, and I lost a lot of muscle, just lost a lot of muscle. So there are times where I feel like I am kind of this deflated bag. Like
Hmm.
I had this capacity for muscle at one time, and now I'm just kind of like more like skin and bones. And being an amputee, I feel like that holds me back a little bit. Not 100%, but enough that I'm kind of struggling to put the kind of weight back on that I can convert to muscle. Because obviously, my biggest fear as an amputee is I'm going to get heavy, my limb's going to change, I'm going to gain weight in my limb, and then I'm going to struggle in my prosthesis. I'm like, I tend to get in my head like I'm this sort of house of cards that's just going to fall apart.
So you're catastrophizing then. So you're going to worst case scenario.
Yep.
Um, you're not alone in that wreck. I think most people, I do it as well, because it's like, well, and I think people have to realize there's got to be something inherently on the cards for you to allow that to get to those extremes
Hmm.
of, you know, I understand where you're coming from because it's a fear of, and it's a real one, of the prosthetic not fitting. And with being in the US, there's a cost to come with that as well because is the insurance going to cover if I have to get a new one? And it's the same if you people to lose weight as well.
Mhm.
So it is very much one of it's out of the person's control because ultimately the company's going to dictate whether or not you get a new prosthetic. Whereas this is maybe where the K1 to K4 needs to be looked at as of why shouldn't there be a K5 region if somebody wants to improve their health and well-being? Why is K4 the limit? Why can't somebody transfer from one category to the other?
Yeah.
I'm not saying, and I would even go out on a limb and say from K1 and going all the way to K. If that's their trajectory that they want to go on, why should somebody else dictate that? So the point that I'm making in terms of you can't do it the conventional way of, bodybuilding way of you could obviously go up on a bulk. If you had two legs, it's not a problem because yes, you're going to be a bit heavier, and then utilize the I'm going to say quote excess weight to then transform that into. It would be very easy to do it because obviously the optimum weight that you're wanting to get to, you retain it. So that's one way of. So it's called it's the dirty way of doing it. So you eat whatever you want, get up to that, and then you'd cut to then get to a physique that you feel to be more, well, aesthetically pleasing for yourself and others viewing it. That's one way to do it. The other way is to do it simultaneously with the nutrition, that you do it in stages. So the training will dictate how much you eat. So this is probably where people get it wrong because they don't know whether or not they're in well, what we would term if I was talking to a colleague, is a calorie deficit. So it's as simple as that. In order to, in your case, you wouldn't go on a calorie deficit, you go on a calorie surplus to be able to allow you to eat more, but then you're not having the session that you're doing in the gym detract from you utilizing energy because the body, if it doesn't got enough fuel, it's gonna take it from where you don't want where you don't want it to go from. So if you want trying to put on muscle, the body's gonna take the energy from where it's gonna go to the muscles to fuel itself normally. So if you're not getting enough food in, the body's gonna go, well, okay, this energy that we've got that's going to the muscles, we're going to take that and deplete it. So it wouldn't be able to help the muscle to recover and grow. And then on the other hand, if I was to ask and to poll most people, they don't know if they're even in a maintenance phase, which is obviously to stay at the weight that they're at.
Mhm.
Most people don't know what it is. They don't know what in generally speaking, if you were to look on food labels, a male needs to be on 2,500, and a female on 2,000. Most people probably in the West are not doing that. They're probably way above that. If they were to track it,
Yeah.
it'd probably be like 3,000 plus. But what people want to do is obviously look to dieting to maybe overcomplicate the procedure as, okay, do I need to go on a meal prep? Do I need to go to understand macros? No, unless you want to obviously have the understanding of the one or the other or the two combined, it doesn't need to be a difficult. I've done this as a video if people want it, to literally break it down as what you need to do in order to lose weight. If people will go away and implement that, they will lose weight.
So when I
Um,
engage you in this process,
yep,
you will make those specific recommendations. You will get into the weeds with me on.
yeah. Literally look at what is your goal? Why is it important for you to achieve that? What is the time frame so literally utilizing, what smart goals are. Literally
I'd like
using
to think
every.
so.
So for people that don't know it, so obviously S stands for specific, M is measurable, I can't think what the A stands for. R is realistic, and T is for time specific. So what effect? How long do you want to take in order to reach your goal? Some people obviously they cut themselves short because the goal is either not specific enough, so there's no why as what's the real reason behind you want to lose weight. If it's somebody that family member telling you need to lose, that's not going to help you, because ultimately there is not enough skin in the game when it gets tough to keep it with being having resilience, being disciplined, and having perseverance to follow through with what you say we're going to do. The other one that probably goes to the two together would be some people's goals are not realistic. So either the time constraints is too short, there's no time frame whatsoever. So then it kind of gives the person a free pass, because it's like, well, if I don't have a set goal, be it I want to lose weight for my birthday, I've got a wedding coming up, I want to look good for my son or daughter walking down the aisle. That's specific because there's a set time of, hey, I need to be this weight,
Yeah.
because there's going to be photographic evidence of me being potentially maybe a weight or look I don't want to look like.
Yeah, right.
So it needs to be, those three need to be looked at, but obviously you need to look at the importance of why why is the individual wanting to put on some size? Why does the person want to look at weight? Because that's going to be what they needed to do when it gets hard. Because it's like, okay, I'm going to use a scenario of, if you came to me, Rick, and said, "Oh, I want to be able to run around with my kids in the in the backyard without without lose being short of breath." That's a big why, because there's an emotional attachment to something that's logical.
Yeah.
And most males, or most that I've spoken to in the past, they stay in logic a lot. They're almost don't like the feeling of going into emotions because it makes them feel awkward.
Right.
But in order to have success in a goal, you need to have an emotional attachment to it, because this is why I'm doing it. Doesn't matter what somebody down the street's doing, my coworker, a cousin, whatever. Yeah, they're doing it for their reasons, and it gives you tangibility to kind of go, okay, why am I not feeling it today? James reminded me that, hey, I want to play with my son or daughter in the backyard to not lo- to not be in shortness of breath. Am I moving closer to that? Yes, it's literally a yes or no question.
Yeah.
So it's harsh to yourself, but as in, it kind of goes, well, okay, if I'm not feeling it today because I can't wear my prosthetic, it's not you're not given a free pass, but okay, well, what else do I need to do differently to still get this session in?
Yeah.
To not go, oh, well, I can do it tomorrow. I can do it next week. I can do it next year. Okay, well, when are you going to step up to the plate? Because eventually
Right.
there's going to be a regret in years to come. Oh, I wish I'd have done this sooner.
I tend I
I'd
tend
rather you
to
not get there.
I tend to feel like, for myself, that the only thing that is sustainable for me in terms of getting those results that last, let's call them, that I'm not, I know you've referred to this in some of your video blogs and different things, this whole, this yo-yo kind of effect that goes on with people. What I find is that I have to keep reminding myself that my pursuits physically, from a fitness level, emotionally, and spiritually, but also from a nutritional level, all of these things need to be my core values in terms of lifestyle. What is my lifestyle? I don't want to be on a diet. I don't want to be on something temporary. I want to live my life in a certain way that will not only help me reach my goals, but that I never have to circle back and go, oh, what's the latest, greatest thing that people are doing? what's the piece of equipment? What's the special diet plan? Oh, everyone's eating grapefruits now. I think I'm going to try that. No, I just want to have something that I can say, this is just the way I live my life. It gives me all the fuel I need in all these categories to feel my best. And I'm actually in much better shape now than I was before I became an amputee. I'm more active now and I engage life in a much different way. And I would think for yourself, coming from the coaching perspective, it and you touched on this already, it's such a mental process, getting people to understand um where those feelings come from, and then developing that specific sort of methodology about how you cope with those feelings, and then how you infuse all of the better habits so that it can be sustainable. And I'm guessing the rewards are pretty fantastic from where you're sitting sometimes.
Well, I get loads of buzz out of it when people get success because it shows that their hard work's paying off.
Mhm.
And obviously, I'm gonna add to what you say is is congruency to what you're doing. Literally, consistency is doing something over and over again. But it's the awareness to look at your behaviors and habits with no judgment. This definitely helps with me looking into like Eastern philosophies and things like that because see Buddhism and Hinduism looks at meditation, mindfulness, doing things with frequency work. It helps because you're not going to be able to run away from your feelings, no matter how hard you try. If you're putting things at arm's length, I've done it, and literally the thing came steamrolling at me.
Yeah.
'Cause my body went, "Okay, you're not listening to it, so they're not listening to us. Let's hurt you where it hurts the most, your health." I took notice then. But I think most people wait until they hit rock bottom, and some people don't need to. Some people obviously need to hit rock bottom, and then they kinda go, "Okay, I need to
Yeah,
have
wake up call.
I need to lose a limb. I need to have a heart attack. I need to have a I'm not obviously touch wood. I'm not wishing anything on people like that. But for some individuals, they need to hit. There's no lower point in their life, and the only way is up. But some people don't need to wait that long. It's like if you're unhappy with where you're at right now, and there is a brighter future that you can envision for yourself. This is a hard skill visualization to kind of picture where you'd like to go because if you've never thought about it before, it's very awkward because like literally, I got very good at looking at people's body language. People looking over here, looking over. They think they're trying to find in their head where this thing either resides. Because if you people watch my videos, because I do it as well. Because that's when my eyes are going off screen. That's what I'm trying to do. I'm trying to literally picture the words to say before I do it. So the visualization cue is built upon that because if you are that Michelangelo, you are the Leonardo da Vinci of your own life. You can create this from this blank canvas in whatever you want it to be because you are that painter, you are that sculpture. But you need to have that foresight and the awareness to kind of go, okay, I can see that I have a challenge, a problem, how you want to call it, term it, and I want to resolve it. So it's not a bad thing to seek out support, help from that. I think males have that challenge a little bit more because it's the male pride to go, oh no, I can't admit that is a problem. And I've done that recently. My coach went, nah, don't do that. If there's inherently a problem and it's making you stressed, we need to know that because then obviously we can put that fire out when it's little embers versus this massive thing that's engulfing everything. and setting fire to other people,
Yeah,
other people that you care about,
sure.
because literally you're a dumpster fire waiting to happen,
Yeah,
and that's a
you're
pretty
lashing
bad
out.
one.
No, I understand, and what you're doing for the community is incredibly valuable, and your wisdom as an athlete and someone who has dealt with limb difference, your entire life. Please walk through slowly so everyone can understand completely. Please walk through slowly how we can reach you. Where do we go? How do we sign up? Where do we hit the like button, the sign me up button? All of those good things. I'm gonna let you kind of walk the audience through that.
You can follow me on Facebook. You can follow me on Instagram. Pretty much, I'm on every social media platform, so those probably be in the links. My website is jamesowenroberts.com, and there's literally a button on there to book in a 30-minute call with Louis. No barking.
Louis. It's a great
There's
dog
a
name.
button. Well, it's named literally Louis after the king, isn't it? Louis the 14th.
It's just such a
But
great name for a dog.
there's a button on the website to book in a 30-minute call to have a conversation with me,
Great.
to walk through literally what I've done a fraction of. So say, what is it that you want to achieve in your health and fitness? Why is that important to you? What obstacles might come up? What objections do you have that you feel that could get in the way? And what is it that what you want to achieve? Literally walk you through that, and
It's
I'll give you a
fantastic.
game. I'll give you a game plan, regardless if you sign up or not, to
Yes,
kind of go away.
Mr. James Owen Roberts, we appreciate you. Thank you so much for being here. I'm so glad. I kind of feel like we just kind of like scratched the surface a little bit with you. So I'm hoping that at some point I can talk you into coming back at
You
some
can always
point.
strong arm me, Rick. Everybody can do that. You don't have to make me do anything. Yeah. I'd love to come back on in the future.
Yeah, I think there's so much more to talk about with you, and I appreciate your perspective and what you bring to this community. That is actually going to wrap it up for us today. My name is Rick Bontkowski. This is the Amped Up to 11 podcast, and I want to wish everyone health and happiness, and we will see you next time. Thanks again, James.